Well, the winter is finally over and we're here at the famous Brands Hatch for round one of the Thundersport GB Championships for 2013.
This show focuses on two classes, the Van Insurer Sportsman Elite 600 and the Bike Insurer GP1s.
Welcome to Thundersport Elite. Well, here we are then. Brands Hatch in Kent is the first stop of a 9-round championship with Thundersport GB. This show in 2013 bringing you all the action from the Bike Insurer Thundersport GP1s, the Van Insurer Sportsman Elite 600s. So both classes sponsored by effectively the Bike Insurer. If you want your vans, your bikes, your cars, your camper vans insured, then they are the people to see. First up on circuit for 2013, it's the Bike Insurer Thundersport GP1s. Pole position for number 12 on the Kawasaki, Ben Grindrod. Second place, Rob McNeely, not made it out onto the grid, but it is third for number 3, Adrian Clark, out there on the GP1 bike, and number 47 in 4th, Daryl Dance on the BMW. And second row, number 67, Steph Capella, 68, Duncan Gibson, 78, Jesse Traylor, and number 123, last year's 600 champion of the Sportsman Elite category, number 123, Danny Murphy, and away they go. And it's a good start from Steph Capella from the second row as they head down into turn 1, Paddock Hill Bend, and there's all sorts of smoke up there. Have we got a blown engine? We have. It's Steph Capella's bike has blown, and I'm not sure he knows yet. He's still getting the back end's wobbling around all over the place. There is there's Waghorn, John Waghorn, going up the inside of them all, and Capella's off. He didn't realise he's gone down. Well, I have to say that is very lucky indeed that he's got out of that unscathed. There's another rider down in the background also. This one's going to get stopped. There's no doubt about it. We could have oil down and drama here in the first, well, not even half a lap here at Brands Hatch. Red flags are indeed out for safety reasons, and the oil is going to be dealt with by pretty much everyone out on circuit at the moment helping, and boys and girls in orange and all the officials just clearing up that. So Steph Capella from the second row, what a great start he got, a shame for him. Back with the restart we go. Grindrod then, we can see a few gaps in the grid now. There's a number of riders that have pointed their motorcycles in different directions, ready for this one, and away that from the line they go. It's a good start from the second row again by that looks like Jesse Traylor, but it's going to be Clark that leads into turn 1. Familiar names to look out for, of course, the reigning champion, number 1, Peter Baker, a double GP1 champion. He won it a couple of years back also. And number 71, Phil Crow, who won the championship in 2010. I can tell you that out there, we've got an air temperature of around about 2 or 3 degrees. It is slippery. The riders have had 2 or 3 laps just to acquaint themselves with the clear up over at Paddock Hill Bend and into Druids, and all look pretty happy with life. But it's Adrian Clark on the GP1 machine that leads for Ben Grindrod, and Grindrod goes down. He loses the front end into McLaren, and well, Ben Grindrod had to be seen as one of the favourites. He's very upset with himself, but the Superstock rider has gone down, leaving Clark out front alone. Second place there, that is Daryl Dance, number 47, and that's Duncan Gibson, I believe, in 3rd or 4th place out there on the Ducati, getting down to business. And that's Phil Crow, number 71, the 2010 champion, who's come through from 14th on the grid to move up into 4th place. A bit of a wobble on the rear end there for him as he comes down into Graham Hill Bend. So former champion Phil Crow obviously not too fussed about the dodgy conditions here. All the riders out on wet tyres, I should just add. It's just too cold to go for anything else. Daryl Dance there on the orange machine, just trying to go up the inside of Duncan Gibson. They're 3 abreast, and Phil Crow goes from 4th to 1st. What a move from Phil Crow while they're all napping. Crowy has gone through the lot of them, and the 2010 champion takes to the front. We've got another rider down there. Well, it's difficult to spot who that is. I can tell you what, we've already lost Danny Murphy. Danny Murphy's gone out of this race. Who have we lost there? Carl Wilkes, Ben Grindred. That might be Sean Hennessy or Neil Watson, one of the two. Neither of those riders made it round that last time. But it's Crow that leads from Clark. Clark, a rider who was finishing regularly in the top 3 or 4 last season. Duncan Gibson has now moved up into 3rd place. Further back there, you just saw number 97, and there's 194. 97 is Richie Connell. 194, Bill Callister. So, Phil Crow, look at the lead. He's obviously very confident with these conditions here at Brands Hatch. Number 3, Adrian Clark, there in 2nd place, the rider who comes all the way from Inverness down here at Brands Hatch. Duncan Gibson, number 68 from Ashstead on the JHP Ducati Coventry machine, doing very well in these conditions. And Peter Baker is flying through, the Morello Services Suzuki rider, who is the defending champion after regaining that title last year. There is number 97, Richie Connell, once more having a decent battle. I think Dan Hill's in amongst that gaggle as well. Neil Gregory's having a decent run out in the top 8, number 169, good to have him out. Barry Teasdale, last year's Thundersport pre-national 600 champion, is also in the points. So there's a number of riders that are benefiting from these shifts of positions. There's Kingsley Ruddy, a former 400 rider and Aprilia Super Team rider, number 29, just up in the points. Jenny Tinmouth started off the weekend here, but was struggling here yesterday. So the rate of attrition quite high in the GP1 category for this season, the first round of the year in rather difficult conditions. There is number 47, Daryl Dance, having fun with 115 John Waghorn around Clearways, and there is your race leader, Phil Crow. What a race he's having in 2nd place there. Now, Duncan Gibson having a look up the inside of Adrian Clark, who just has to sit up for a moment, number 3, the Scotsman. And they're both going to have company in the form of Dance and Waghorn any second now. In fact, this fight for 2nd really is hotting up. And there's Daryl Dance up the inside of Clark. So Clark has lost a couple of positions in the space of 2 laps. It looks like the rain's starting to come down again. Peter Baker's also in amongst them. Baker has come through the grid. He was 18th on the grid, the defending champion. He's flying at the moment. But just to give you an idea as to how tricky these conditions are, I mean, the lap record in Thundersport GP1, 47.5. The riders out there at the moment are lapping in around the 56s, so that just gives you an idea as to how much they're having to go through. You can see Phil Crow there just carefully making his way around Clearways, but he's got a decent lead here over number 68 Duncan Gibson, 47 Daryl Dance, 3 is Adrian Clark, and then it's John Waghorn, who's just about holding off there. You can see in the blue and grey jacket Peter Baker. Last lap flag out. Crow looks home and dry with this. He's looking really good. Number 71 on the Whole Beach Tyres Moto 46 BMW. There he is. Phil Crow, a champion in 2010. He had a disastrous year last year, plagued with injury and all sorts of problems, but he's back to his best now. And this is looking like he can just cruise home the final few turns here at Brands Hatch Indy. Who's going to get 2nd place, though, because Baker was certainly the quickest of the lot. He was trying to make his way past Duncan Gibson and Waghorn the last time we saw him, but Crow it is that is going to cruise around Clearways. In the background there, this is the fight for 2nd, and Baker's managed to do it. He's got past a lot of them on the final lap. So Peter Baker, the defending champion, is going to join the 2010 champion across the line on the podium. He takes the win. Peter Baker, last year's champion, takes 2nd. 3rd is going to go to John Waghorn, number 115, who just crosses the line 1/10 of a second quicker than Duncan Gibson. Daryl Dance misses out altogether on the podium and finishes 5th, ahead of Adrian Clark. Waghorn takes the Superstock 1000s victory. In fact, he's the only Superstock rider that finished inside the top 7. Chris Barnes goes across the line in 8th ahead of Barry Teasdale, so they will be 2nd and 3rd in the Superstock 1000s. And the winner of the Clubman 1000 Cup is Justin Stevenson. So a good win there for Phil Crow, back to his best ahead of Pete Baker. John Waghorn wins the Superstocks and finishes 3rd overall ahead of Gibson, Dance and Clark. And there he is, Big Phil in the middle, with Peter Baker on the left and Duncan Gibson on the right. In the Superstocks, it's John Waghorn from Chris Barnes and Barry Teasdale. And the winner of the Clubman 1000 Cup is Justin Stevenson.
winner of the Club 1000 Cup, Justin Stevenson. You're out there on your own, but you managed to get a trophy in your hand, so it can't be that bad.
No, it was a hard race, very slippy conditions, very tricky, but obviously brought it home and got a trophy, so makes it all better for you, so all good.
Excellent. Have you got any sponsors you'd like to thank?
Yeah, I'd like to thank K1 Fitness, John McLaren Spray Shack, and Swift Signs and the Manor Calf and AMR Racing. So thank you to all them to be here.
Phil Crow, winner of the Thundersport GP1. You had a storming lead there. Did you face any competition on the way?
Well, I thought there was going to be quite a bit of competition, yeah. We made a bad mistake yesterday with tyre choice and it demoted me to 14th place, so I thought I'm going to be up against it all the race. I didn't really know what I was going to do. I was just going to ride around and pick them off one by one. I knew I'd have to be quite aggressive on the start, so that's what we did. Went straight out there and just rid with something else rather than my brain, and it paid off. It was a big risk really, but frustrated all yesterday, frustrated today, and we just had to make it right for the start of the season, so yeah, happy with that, yeah.
Excellent. Any sponsors you'd like to thank?
Yeah, we've got Mole Beach Motorcycle Tyres as always, Objectum Modernisation. New sponsor for this year is White Knuckle Motorcycles. They import Chinese motorcycles, good people. They've put a bike out with young lad Tom Neve on in the Mini Twins who's racing now, so I'm trying to rush off to watch his race actually. He's out on a WK 650. They're with us all year, so yeah, I'd like to thank all them.
Superstock 1000 winner, John, you qualified 10th on the grid, but you managed to come first in your class. Who did you battle along the way?
I can't remember, I was just watching the tarmac and trying not to hit the slippery bits, but I think the main one was Peter Baker. We turned road for a bit and then just got my head down. I knew I was leading my class, so I just thought I'd stick where I was at. Stayed safe.
Good tactics. Any sponsors you'd like to thank?
No, just my dad really, and Jill. People that helped me, that's about it.
Well, that's it from the GP1s. Join us again after the break. It will be time for the Van Insurer 600 Sportsman Elite. Welcome back to Brands Hatch. It's now time for the Van Insurer 600 Sportsman Elite, a championship where there are two classes out on circuit. Pole position is Ryan Dixon, number 69, ahead of 29 Pete Carr, 193 Dale Thomas, and number 99 Stephen Kaplan. There were 38 riders out in qualifying, and I would honestly say that pretty much down from 1st to 20th are former race winners and potential race winners. Slippery conditions, wet tyres still the order of the day. The green flag at the back means we're ready to go, and it's a good start from poleman number 69 Ryan Dixon, who seems to get away well. Also a decent start for 193 Dale Thomas, and Sam Thompson looked to get away well also. So good starts all round for the Superstock bikes. Into Druids we go, and you'll be able to see just how slippery it is as the riders make their way through. Also, you can see that turquoise machine there, James Shaw, going well. A massive moment there for Dale Thomas, number 193, as he came out of Druids and nearly lost the rear end. They come down into Graham Hill Bend. That bike there that is orange and black is Callan Cooper, and we've got somebody who's going for a little tour, and he's going, well, he was in 6th or 7th place. He'll probably find himself in about 30th now. Such is the competition in this championship this year. And we've got a faller at the front, and that's Ryan Dixon, is it? Is that Dixon that's gone down? Well, into McLaren. It's been slippery around there all weekend, and it is. Dixon has gone down. He is the cousin of Jake Dixon. You'll remember him, who raced a couple of seasons ago with Thundersport. So Dixon has gone down from the front. Well, exactly the same thing happened in GP1s a little while ago when the leader went down into McLaren. It's happened again here. Dixon will be livid. At the front is Sam Thompson, number 50, the rider from Bournemouth. Well, Sam is an ex-Super Teen rider. He's only been getting used to a 600 for a year or so. What has he been doing in the winter? And there's all sorts of wobbles out back. This is giving a good chance now, and we've got one down. That's Callan Cooper. Oh my word, he was lucky there. He was seriously lucky. He went in between 3 or 4 bikes, and he's hobbling about a bit and limping away. Callan Cooper on the JDF Kawasaki has gone down. Well, they're flying down at the moment. One man who's flying at the front, though, is Sam Thompson, number 50. He's happily singing away as he pulls. Well, who's that just in second place? It looks like Joe Newbold on the Kawasaki, who's got himself up to second. So if you stay on the bike, you're going to get some points here. Further back I can see James Shaw, and that's Daniel Freer, who's now moving up into second place. Dan Freer, an experienced rider, a rider who's been quick at Brands Hatch all weekend, doesn't mind whether it's sunshine, raining, or these in-between conditions. Thompson it is that leads on a super stock bike. In second there, Dan Freer is on a Formula 600 bike. So Freer has more power available to him in his motorcycle, but Brands Hatch isn't really a circuit that you would consider as being one that you could really utilise all of that power, although it will help him on the start-finish straight. We've got a rider down there, bike on the edge of the circuit. Not sure who that is, but that looks like it's in a bit of an iffy place. We'll have to wait and see what happens with that. It's still Thompson that leads. He's coming under pressure from Dan Freer. That's Tom Whedon going through. And ahead of Joe Newbold, that's Lee Williams, a former Supermoto rider who was in the pre-national 600s last year. He's also going well. Time to take a breath in a minute. It's Dan Freer just behind Sam Thompson. So a super stock bike leads a Formula 600 bike, and that bike there is in between the exit of Druids and Graham Hill Bend. So the marshals are going to rush out to that any second now. Up into Surtees they go. Thompson having a great ride here. Some of the riders that are further back, I can tell you that Chris Helliwell is going well. Steve Kaplan, Joe Barton, a former Thundersport 500 rider. Daryl Harrison, and Matthew Jones. Dylan Roberts all flying through the pack. Lewis Osler. Curtis Wright is also going strong, but at the front of this one, while Sam Thompson is about to lose first place. He's still leading the super stock race effectively, but it's Dan Freer that has moved ahead of him as they head up towards Druids now. In third place, that looks to be the turquoise coloured machine of number 40, Jamie Edwards. So James Shaw is somewhere further back. Jamie Edwards, a former 125 GP rider with Thundersport. He had all sorts of running troubles with that Aprilia, if I remember rightly. So that's Newbold going through also, and Lee Williams, but it's Jamie Edwards that's got himself up into the top 3 or 4 now. And there's another rider who's gone down, and that is in an awkward place for the marshals to get to. Another rider going down here in these slippery conditions, and that's Sam Cox. It's Sam Cox, the rider who last year finished in the top 3 of the 450 championship restart. Here we go then. It's going to be a 2-part race here. I'll try and keep you up to date as to who is where, but Dan Freer was leading from Sam Thompson, and I believe we had Jamie Edwards up in third at that particular point, and we've got a faller already down into turn 1, and that's Joe Newbold, number 143, a rider that was in the top 6 in the first part of the race. He picks up his screen and walks away with it. He's left his bike in the gravel, but well, we have a faller already into Paddock Hill Bend. It's Dan Freer that leads from Sam Thompson. So effectively, as far as the top 2 are concerned, nothing changes there. Is that Lee Williams up into third place? It looks as though it may well be, a former Supermoto rider. And Jamie Edwards up into 4th place. Tom Whedon in 5th overall. Wow, well, it's all happening here. The Scunthorpe rider on the NL Components BTS Yamaha there, Dan Freer, leads this race from Sam Thompson, who leads the Superstock category. In third place, number 94, Lee Williams from Liverpool on the Honda. And Tom Whedon there just getting overtaken around the outside by number 40, Jamie Edwards from Stony Stanton on the turquoise Yamaha. And Lee Williams there just closing the door. Lee won't mind these conditions at all. His Supermoto style suits pretty much any condition. There's Tom Whedon now fighting back on the Trick Bits Triumph up the and underneath. Edwards running out of room though on the exit, is he? And he picks up the Triumph and powers it on down the Cooper Straight and into Surtees and McLaren. I can't emphasize enough how well Sam Thompson is doing here, number 50, a rider that last year didn't really feature in the top 4 or 5 of many races. He's been getting better with each race that comes along, but this year he looks like he means business. And if he can finish up in the top 3 of this race, or even win the Superstock category, that really is some achievement in the first round of this season. There is Edwards going through in 4th place overall behind Tom Whedon, although I should just say that effectively overall in the standings, because it's a 2-part race, we need to consider Lee Williams, who is in third now. If he can get himself a bit more of a gap over the rest of the field, he might be able to take third overall. There's Richie Connell, number 97. Just going around the outside of Ben Rea there. But it's Dan Freer on the Yamaha that leads, number 66. Dan, who's also competing in the Super Twins race at Thundersport GB. You'll be able to see that in our other shows here on Motors TV. Keep your eyes out for them. We have 4 shows on Motors TV for you this year from Thundersport GB rounds, all 9 of them covered by Motors TV. So there is Tom Whedon, currently in 4th place overall, just behind Lee Williams on circuit. There is your race leader, number 66, Daniel Freer. He is leading the Formula 600. Sam Thompson second, leading the Superstock chase. And then it's Lee Williams in third, who's on a Formula 600 bike, and we've got a faller there. Oh, and that looked really, really nasty, and that's Nick Clift. Nick has gone down. He hit another bike on his way in. He came down at a real pace. That's a shame for Nick Clift. He was doing so well there. But Nick has gone down and won't play a part in the standings. He was on for a decent top 10 finish there in the Superstock category. A shame for Nick. Dan Freer comes across the line and sees the last lap flag. Sam Thompson still doing enough to hold on to second. Tom Whedon now moves up to third overall, ahead of Lee Williams. I'm not sure that'll be enough for him to take third away from him in the standings, or will it? It could well do. It's going to be between Lee Williams and Tom Whedon at this rate as they come around Graham Hill Bend. Further back, Jamie Edwards has just lost sight of these guys, along with James Shaw, Curtis Wright and Chris Helliwell, who's doing ever so well. Chris Helliwell up inside the top 8 overall. But it's going to be Dan Freer here that takes the win on TV day at Brands Hatch at Thundersport GB, the first race win of the season on these R6. He wins the overall race, he wins the Formula 600s, and Sam Thompson nods his head, and so he should. He wins the Superstock 600s. It's Tom Whedon that goes across the line in third, ahead of Lee Williams. Jamie Edwards then in 4th place ahead of James Shaw, but we just need to wait for confirmation because it's a 2-part race. Of course, both races need to be calculated up. One thing I'm sure of is the winners of each class, though. Freer does take the win ahead of Sam Thompson, Lee Williams 3rd, Jamie Edwards 4th ahead of James Shaw, and Curtis Wright in 6th. And there is the happy winner, centre of your picture. Daniel Freer wins the Formula 600s. What a win for Sam Thompson. He's got a big smile on his face, takes his first win.
Winner of the Superstock 600, Sam Thompson. It was a close race between you and Dan Freer all the way through. Can you tell us about the race?
Well, like you say, it's a very close race. I mean, he finished, I don't know, about 3 or 4 seconds in front of me. I mean, it's wet up 3/4 of the way around the track. A lot of people crashing, but after the race got stopped, it was, it made it a lot closer, and unfortunately got the better of me, but I'm pleased to be on the podium anyway.
Excellent. And any sponsors you'd like to thank?
Yeah. Big thanks to Kirk Dennis, who sets all the bike up. Obviously, Mum, Dad. Big thanks to Robert, Hit Industry, Hospitality Training, who came and saw us this weekend. Another big thanks to Grandma and Grandad and all their friends who came over from France.
Winner of the Formula 600, Dan Freer. An excellent weekend for you here. Do you like Brands Hatch?
I didn't before. I had my biggest crash here last year I've ever had, and I ended up in hospital. So it took getting some confidence back, but it's back and it's all right now.
Excellent. And can you tell us about the race? You were in the front for quite a while.
Yeah, luckily I've got another bike I ride. I've got a 650, and it was raced before, and there's oil down all over the track, and I knew where it all was. There were lads going down left, right, and centre, and I knew where to dodge it, luckily, and managed to pull the win off.
Excellent. And any sponsors you'd like to thank?
Yeah, Barry Gisson at NL Components, Phil Drury, and Paul Borrell. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be here racing all year, so it's cheers to them,
Well, good racing here from Brands Hatch, and still 2 more to come. The Bike Insurer Thundersport GP1s up after the break. Welcome back to Brands Hatch here in Kent. The bike insurer Thundersport GP1 Race 2 is up next. We have a number of riders missing from the grid. Ben Grindred, who fell in Race 1, isn't there. Rob McNeely's not here. So we can see number 3 Adrian Clark and number 47 Daryl Dance. You need to look at the gaps there. We had 35 in qualifying. Only 18 have made it to the start of this race. For the first round of the season, we have a number of riders that are going to lose out on points. It's a good chance for number 3, though, Adrian Clark, who's effectively promoted to pole. He is going to get the whole shot. Peter Baker there from 18th on the grid got off to a decent start, and it looked like Phil Crow was just behind him also. We've got a rider with his arm up, so we'll have to keep an eye on who that is, but it's Clark that leads. Chris Barnes up to second place. Decent for him, you have to say. Further back there, we're looking at number 19. That's Blake Walls. Peter Baker is absolutely flying through the pack, as is Phil Crow. Pete Baker was 18th on the grid. The defending champion has now made his way up into 3rd place as they come into Surtees and McLaren. So, the leader goes through there, Adrian Clark. We've got John Waghorn up there also, Daryl Dance, Peter Baker, Phil Crow looking for win number 2. But this is a good start from Adrian Clark, number 3 on his Honda. Second place for Barnes. Barnes has really got off to a decent start. Baker in 3rd, ahead of Waghorn. And then we've got Daryl Dance. Further back after that, it looks as though Neil Gregory 169 has got off to a decent start. Barry Teasdale 224 also doing reasonably well, but it's Adrian Clark that's trying to pull a lead here. He is on a GP1 power bike machine effectively, so he has more power available to him than second place man Chris Barnes, who's leading the Superstock chase. In 3rd, it is the GP1 machine of defending champion number 1 on the blue and white Morello Services Suzuki, Peter Baker. The battle just behind him between number 115 there, that is John Waghorn, and number 47 Daryl Dance. Then it's Phil Crow, who won that race earlier on. Conditions are slightly different for this race, definitely drier than race 1. They've knocked 3 or 4 seconds off their lap times, and Waghorn there around the outside of Peter Baker down into Paddock Hill Bend. So the confidence is coming to them now. How long can Adrian Clark hold on to this lead? He's currently lapping in the 54s, but the guys behind are finishing in 3rd. Waghorn now is up to 2nd place, ahead of Chris Barnes. So Barnes has dropped to place. Waghorn leads the Superstock 1000cc race. There is Peter Baker, number 1, under pressure now from Daryl Dance, and Phil Crow doing everything he can just to hang on to them. Clark's lead is getting shorter, you know. He had about a 2-second lead, and as they come into clearaways, that has been cut down by John Waghorn in 2nd place, who's looking really hot in this race. Phil Crow there, up the inside of Daryl Dance around clearaways and up through Clark Curve. Across the line now, it's Clark from Waghorn. Barnes in 3rd, Baker 4th, Daryl Dance, number 47, in 5th place. Phil Crow, the race 1 winner, in 6th. Up towards Druids they go, and that lead is now down to probably under half a second. Barnes trying to hold off Peter Baker, and there is Neil Gregory, who's now coming into play, number 169. Further back, we can see this is all the battle for all the points. Danny Murphy's up inside the top 10, just behind Barry Teasdale, Richie Connell, Kingsley Ruddy, Bill Callister, Dan Hill, Blake Walls, Justin Stevenson again, and Colin Thompson. Also got Alice Bassel, but it is John Waghorn that is closing down on the race leader. Remember, Waghorn is on a Superstock bike, so effectively by the end of the start-finish straight, Clark should have the advantage on the more powerful Honda. But it doesn't matter, because on the brakes, here comes Waghorn now, really late on the brakes, and he does take the lead. So Waghorn, he was already leading the Superstock race effectively by sitting in 2nd, but he's had enough. And is that Barnes pulling up? Barnes had his arm up in the air there as he came down Paddock Hill Bend. He's dropped a couple of places also. So it's now Waghorn from Clark, 3rd place for Baker, then Daryl Dance, then Phil Crow, and Chris Barnes has lost out on 3 or 4 places there. Further back, Bill Callister turns in, and he's having some fun at the moment with the likes of Dan Hill and Blake Walls. But John Waghorn is lapping in the low 53s. He's almost into 52s at the moment, which is good going considering the circuit temperature's still down in single figures and is pretty cold here. Peter Baker is doing very well, though, having moved himself up into the top 3. Adrian Clark, of course, still doing everything he can to finish in the top 2 or 3. Once more, we go back to see that battle for 12th and 13th between Bill Callister and number 75, Dan Hill. There's Danny Murphy, number 1, 2, 3. Danny moving up a place, up into 9th now. Danny, of course, last year's Sportsman Elite champion. He won that on a super stock bike. But it's Waghorn here, number 115, that leads. And, well, his lap time's a good half a second quicker than the rest of the field. Adrian Clark is doing everything he can to hold on to him, but I just don't know whether or not he's going to be able to keep up with Waghorn, who's looked pretty good from start up until this point. 3rd place there for Baker. Baker is closing down on Clark now. His lap times are a good 2 or 3 tenths of a second quicker than Clark's also. And there is race 1 winner Phil Crow, who will be disappointed that he's not a little bit quicker than the rest of the field here. Neil Gregory now has moved up ahead of Daryl Dance, so 169 moves ahead of number 47. Neil Gregory, an experienced competitor. There is Richie Connell, number 97. He goes across the line just ahead of Danny Murphy. That's the battle for 9th. 194 Callister goes through ahead of 29 Kingsley Ruddy and 75 Dan Hill. And there is Phil Crow, race 1 winner, trying all he can to chase down last year's champion Peter Baker. None of them are as fast as this man, though. Number 115, John Waghorn, on the JW Smart BMW Park Lane machine. You heard Phil Crow mention earlier he's got a new sponsor for this season, White Knuckle Racing. Flames popping out of Waghorn's machine there as he dips down into Paddock Hill Bend. You know, Adrian Clark doesn't look as though he's done yet in 2nd place. He's doing everything he can to chase him down. There's not a lot in it lap time-wise. The exit Druid, there's about a second gap there. Peter Baker is definitely catching. He has a sneaky look over his shoulder to find 2010 champion just behind him, Phil Crow. Over the years, Pete Baker and Phil Crow have had some smashing races together. They've both been battling for this GP1 crown the last 3 or 4 years. But it's John Waghorn that's got the better of both of them at the moment, looking to get as many points as possible here at this 1st round. Across the line then comes number 115, John Waghorn. The last lap flag is out. 2nd place still goes to Adrian Clark at the moment, although Peter Baker was shooting through there really late on the brakes. Gregory goes through as well as Daryl Dance. Chris Barnes, despite having his arm up earlier on in the proceedings, is still going around, and at the moment will find himself on the podium of the Superstock class. There is Danny Murphy, number 123, up ahead of number 97, Richie Connell. So it's looking as though Waghorn should have this one secure in the Superstock battles, but Peter Baker is looking to beat Adrian Clark now for the GP1 Winners' Trophy. There is Waghorn on the Cooper Straight and now into Surtees, who is in 2nd place. So I can just about see the pair of them, Adrian Clark and Peter Baker. There's not a lot to split between them. And here they come now, and it is Baker. Well, he leaves it until the last lap, but Peter Baker is up to 2nd overall, is going to win the GP1 battle ahead of Clark and Phil Crow. This will set the championship up nicely for the next round at Donington. John Waghorn wins the race overall and the Superstock Cup, and it is Peter Baker that takes 2nd place overall ahead of Adrian Clark and Phil Crow. Neil Gregory takes 5th ahead of Daryl Dance. Chris Barnes is 7th and is 2nd overall in the Superstocks. And in 8th across the line is number 224, Barry Teasdale. He will also be on the podium in the Superstock Cup. So a good effort there from John Waghorn on the Superstock 1000. Look at all of those GP1 machines he's beaten ahead of Peter Baker, the defending champion, and Adrian Clark. There are the GP1s, Baker, Clark and Crow. Superstock 1000s, John Waghorn ahead of Chris Barnes and Barry Teasdale. And then the winner of the Clubman 1000 Cup once more, Justin Stevenson. So the standings before we go to Donington, really close this one. Look at that, 4 points separating John Waghorn and Phil Crow, and a further 4 points behind is Peter Baker, neatly poised.
Winner of the Clubman 1000 Cup, yet again, Justin Stevenson. 2 trophies for you here. You must be pleased with that result.
Yeah, it's a good result. I wasn't expecting it, but yeah, it's turned out a good day for us all, so yeah, I'll take it, that'll do.
And you like Brands Hatch? Is it a favourite of yours?
No, not really. I've only been, this is my second time here, so to come away with 2 trophies, I'm happy, that's good, so yeah.
And any sponsors you'd like to thank?
Yeah, I'd like to thank AMR Racing, the Manacaf, K1 Fitness and various other sponsors, but yeah, all good.
And winner of the Thundersport GP1 Cup, Peter Baker. You're the reigning champion, you're not going to give up your top spot easily.
Oh no, I'm here to fight for it again. Conditions just so cold. Just any grip is a premium, you know, and I see a few people go down over the weekend. I crashed yesterday, and 1 minute you think, oh, this is like the worst thing ever. 2 good results today. I think if we add the points up, we're certainly not very far adrift. So that's the first one over with. Hopefully all the others will be dry, warm and sunny, and we can race hard and proper.
And you're looking forward to Donington Park. You like that circuit?
Oh yeah, no problem with any of the circuits, and no problem with wet or dry. But obviously the cold for everybody is just minimal grip and just having to be careful really.
And any sponsors to thank?
Steve Morello Roofing is obviously the main man. He's been with me for years and years, and thank him very much for that. You've got Stanard Motors and Red Cat, Southern Mastic Roofing, thank you very much. They did turn out to watch today, and I'm sure they was absolutely frozen, but thank you for that. And there's several others as well, I'm sorry if I forgot you.
And John Waghorn, winner of the Superstock 1000. That was a close race, the top 3 were very close together.
Yeah, no, I got a bit duffed up on the start. I just thought, don't get too excited. Just sat there, managed to get the lead. And just, yeah, I didn't have a pit board. I didn't know where I was at. I just kept pressing on, but went over the finish line and had quite a gap. Surprised about, but that's good. We're safe, we're in 1 bit. Can't be more happy than that.
A good result. Any sponsors to thank?
Sorry?
Any sponsors to thank?
Yeah, my dad and Jill, and obviously BMW Park Lane. Thanks a lot.
One more race still to come here on Motors TV. Join us after the break for the Van Insurer 600 Sportsman Elite. Welcome back to Brands Hatch for the final part of Thundersport Elite. Next up, the Van Insurer 600 Sportsman Elite. A number of riders also missing from this grid, having started off with a grid of 38. A couple of the front runners have taken tumbles up the road here, and this is the final race of the weekend for these guys. So there's plenty of points on offer for a number of riders. Keep an eye on race 1 winner, number 66, Dan Freer. You can see him just in the yellow machine flying through the middle. And, well, thanks to the fact that there are a number of riders missing, he's really gained out of that because he was flying through there and will surely move up into first, second, third maybe, and it looks as though it's Lee Williams that's got the whole shot as they make their way into Druids. It is indeed Lee Williams with the whole shot. Further back there you can see Edwards on the turquoise Yamaha and James Shaw all fighting through. Here comes Daniel Freer though, he moves up into second place. Sam Thompson got away to another good start on his Super Stock 600. Watch out for number 50, he's up there in 4th place. Curtis Wright, another rider to look out for, number 3, and Steve Kaplan, number 99. There is Stephen just up ahead of Sam Thompson. So they're all off to what seems to be a very, very good start indeed. Across the line, number 94, Liverpool's Lee Williams, ahead of Dan Freer. Sam Thompson in 3rd, and then it's quite close there between Steve Kaplan and Curtis Wright as they tip into Paddock Hill Bend. Curtis Wright, a former 125 GP rider, you'll remember that is capable of winning at pretty much any circuit if he puts his mind to it. A little bit inconsistent here and there last year, but very much a rider that is capable of finishing in the top 5 overall this season. And there he is, just behind Sam Thompson. Oh, we've got a faller there already, and that's down at, it looks like Graham Hill Bend. And is that number 5? It is Darrell Harrison. Darrell Harrison has gone out of the race. Darrell, who finished 4th in the formulas earlier on, has fallen out of this race at Graham Hill Bend. Down into turn 1 we go. And that there, number 3, is still Curtis Wright behind Steve Kaplan, but further out front, there is a change for the lead as Daniel Freer takes to the front ahead of Lee Williams. 3rd place still for Sam Thompson. Further back there, we see number 67. That's Matt Pearce, just outside the points behind Ben Rea and Lewis Osler. Dan Freer, who won the race earlier on in this show, a 2-part race. 2nd place for Lee Williams, 3rd for Sam Thompson. Then it's Curtis Wright, Steve Kaplan, James Shaw. There is Jamie Edwards, who's just up behind Curtis Wright. Lee Williams, former supermoto rider with quite a relaxed riding style. Doesn't mind the bike going sideways. Daniel Freer, an experienced competitor. He goes into Druids now with about a couple of bike lengths lead now over Lee Williams. Further back through the pack, you can see there number 97. That is Richie Connell. And he's having a good battle there with Ben Neary and Lewis Osler. Meanwhile, out front, Daniel Freer here, he's just put in a lap time of 53.3. In these conditions, I mean, that would be good enough to put him in the top 3 of the GP1 race a little while ago. He still leads this race overall, about a quarter of a second ahead of Lee Williams, who will not give up just yet. In the background, Sam Thompson is 3rd, but leads the Superstock chase. And in 4th place is Curtis Wright, number 3, and Curtis is also on Superstock machinery, so he's 2nd in the Superstock class. There is Curtis on the Triumph. And then, again, that battle between Connell, Neary and Lewis Osler, number 82. They're all fighting for the final points places in 14th, 15th and 16th at the moment. Freer is unstoppable out front. He's been managing that quarter of a second gap back to Lee Williams very well indeed, and there's a similar gap between the Superstock battle between Sam Thompson there, number 50, and Curtis Wright, number 3. Into Paddock Hill Bend we come now. Lee Williams is pushing everything. He is down to the low 54s in terms of lap times. Further back, that's Chris Helliwell, a former pre-national rider, 600 rider from last year. If you're wondering why he's got a black and a white boot, it's not because he's trying to copy Jorge Lorenzo, although we might start calling him Jorge Helliwell. It's because he's done some damage to his toe ligament-wise and can't actually get his normal city boot on, so he's had to revert to another white boot. So he's got a bit of a mismatch there, but he's doing very well, Chris. He's up in the top 10 overall, and he's on a Superstock bike, so he's on for a top 4 or 5 finish in the Superstock class. And given the competition this year, I'm sure he'd be very happy to come away from this opening weekend with a big bunch of points. At the front, Dan Freer has broken Lee Williams now. He's done just enough in that last lap. That was a 53.4, I think. Yes, 53.383 for Daniel Freer. And that could be just enough to win this race outright. In 2nd, still comfortable, Lee Williams. 3rd for Sam Thompson, who has also broken free of the advances of Curtis Wright there in 4th, who has got company in the form of Stephen Kaplan at the moment, number 99. Freer it is that still leads around McLaren and Clearways. And then up towards Clark Curve. Williams there in 2nd place. There is Chris Helliwell, we mentioned him earlier, number 64, still up inside, well, he's just got past Jamie Edwards and Sam Cox, so he's up inside the top 10. Dylan Roberts is 12th, Matthew Jones 13th, and then it's Connell, Neary, Osler, Rea and Matt Pearce. We've seen Daniel Freer go through, number 66, there is Williams. In 3rd place, still Sam Thompson, but Sam Thompson's lap times suggest that he will be catching Lee Williams shortly. There is Helliwell. Up ahead of Joe Barton, is that? Yes, it is Joe Barton, just ahead of Sam Cox out on circuit. So 2 former Thundersport 500 runners fighting away into Druids Corner. That's a good effort from Joe Barton, whose first season on a 600. Likewise for Sam Cox, who took a tumble in race 1. There's no stopping the race leader. He is absolutely flying. Across the line goes Dan, sees the last lap flag. He's now got, what, a 7-8 second lead over Lee Williams. And Sam Thompson has just put in his fastest lap time there. That was a 54.5, I think, something like that, or 54.6. His fastest lap was actually on lap 6. So it's still a good lap time. He is closing in now on Lee Williams in the closing stages of this race. Daniel Freer cannot be touched now. He's just got one very long corner. It's made up of 3, in fact. McLaren, clearways, Clark Curve, and then onto the start, finish straight, known as the Brabham Straight, and he will win the second race here at Brands Hatch. What an opening weekend it's been for Daniel Freer. He crosses the line and takes another 25 points and wins the Formula 600 race. In the background now, we wait for second place, and that is close between Sam Thompson and Lee Williams. And Sam Thompson, well done to Sam. He takes second overall, and gets a big cheer from the crowd as well. They're all delighted with that. Daniel Freer it is then that wins the Formula 600s ahead of Sam Thompson. Lee Williams finishes 3rd overall, but 2nd in class. James Shaw 4th, Curtis Wright 5th, and Stephen Kaplan in 6th place. Formula 600s top 3, Freer from Lee Williams and Paul Jarman. And in the Super Stocks, it's Sam Thompson with another win ahead of James Shaw and Curtis Wright. Heading into Donington, this is what the championship looks like. Freer leads from Sam Thompson, Lee Williams, Curtis Wright, and Dale Thomas.
Winner of the Superstock 600, Sam Thompson. You started 9th on the grid and you finished with a trophy in your hands, and you must be pleased with that.
Yeah, you can't get better than that. I mean, fourth yesterday in the race, and two firsts today, so can't get much better than that. I'm so over the moon to be here.
And the conditions are all right? You're one of the last races. Was it proving an issue?
Well, I mean, it's a lot better than the first race today. I mean, it's still a little bit wet up at Druids and out of Paddock Hill Bend, but yeah, it's not too bad, so we got there.
Excellent. Any sponsors you'd like to thank?
Yeah, again, a big thanks to Robert Bird, Hit Industry Training, Kirk Dennis, who comes here every meeting with us, sets the bike up and everything, and Mum, Dad, Grandma, Granddad, and everyone else who helps out.
Well done, thank you. Formula 600 winner Dan Freer. It's proving to be a good weekend for you. You're definitely on a roll in that race, and also fastest lap as well as a win.
Yeah, it was a good race that. I was out in the race earlier, one race before it, and the Super Twin, and got duffed up by a load of 15-year-olds, I reckon, and it was good to get out on that and pull the win off. It was a good race.
Excellent. Any sponsors you'd like to thank?
Yeah, there's Bass Tyres, NLC Components, and Barry Gissing, and Phil Drury, and Paul Burrell. If it weren't for them, I wouldn't be racing like, so cheers for that.
Well, that's it from Thundersport Elite here at Brands Hatch Round 1. Join us again at Donington next time, but for now, it's goodbye.